Now the next biggest category, and this is big in this part of the world because of so many businesses around here that really use skilled labor, are the employment-based categories. All of these are quotas. None of these are immediate. So you have to fit into the quota. Some of the quotas are never used up. The persons of extraordinary ability are extraordinary, and therefore there aren't a lot of them to use up the numbers that are available. But the last category, bachelor's degree and other workers, is backlogged over 5 years right now. So if I want to sponsor you, let's say because you're a bench scientist, and I require a bachelor's degree in chemistry, if I file for you right now, you're not going to get a green card for at least 5 years and maybe longer. If you're from India or China, it's going to be longer. A point here, this is perhaps more important than the family side about lines being busted. The right wing gets furious about people jumping lines. There is no line for people who don't have a bachelor's degree or above, in effect, because anybody with a job for less than a bachelor's degree, there's no numbers available, and there haven't been for many, many years, and there won't be, it appears, for many years. So if you come to, I don't know, let's say Provincetown, and you're working in an inn, and you do fabulous work, and the person says, you know, I really would like to have you. We've expanded business, and I don't want you to come up every 6 months from the Caribbean. I want to have you permanent. Well, I can file a petition as let's say, a hotel owner for that worker. And the trouble is that petition puts them into a line where there are no numbers available. Now, once I file the petition, they can't get that temporary work visa to come back up for the next season, because now they're in line for permanent residence, which they're never going to get. So there's no line. There's no line to jump. Congress is at fault here. When they passed the amnesty in '86, they never created good lines. I don't know if they're going to do this time, because this is a very hot topic about taking American jobs. But there is no line to jump. If the worker in the hotel is sponsored for permanent residence, she loses the chance to stay here and work because she'll be illegal. If you stay here and you're illegal, you can't get the green card here. And if you leave after you've been here illegally for a year, you can't come back for 10 years. So if she goes and waits for my sponsorship, I can't have her as a worker during the next high season in the Cape. And she's really going to be in a line that really is no line at all. It never goes anywhere. So it's a broken system. There is no jumping of lines because Congress hasn't had the wisdom to create lines that might work. So that's going to be a hot topic in the comprehensive immigration reform too. All of the people in these categories also had HIV tests. So we would get calls from someone who was, you know, had an endowed chair at one of the major universities and comes to us and says, oh my God, I'm here as a person of extraordinary ability. The university wants to sponsor me. I just had my test and I found out I'm positive. So they're going through this enormous shock of being positive and trying to deal with all that. And at the same time, they found out that they now have a roadblock to residence in the United States. So it included anybody who was HIV positive, and it included anybody in the temporary categories, the family-based categories, or in the employment-based categories. And again, that's gone. Registered just is anybody who's here since before January of '73. Senator Kennedy tried to get this to be moved up by 20 years and then to have it roll forward a year at a time, so it would be sort of a rolling amnesty, but that never passed. Asylum refugee, we explained, again, if you've suffered persecution. Here, there is protection also specifically as a result of decisions by the Clinton administration Attorney General to protect persons who are gay or lesbian if they suffered persecution or feared persecution in the home country. So that was a great movement in the law. They come under a recognized social grouping. And HIV sometimes was added into one of these protected categories as an additional reason. If you went home and there was going to be discrimination and denial of treatment or likelihood of serious illness or death, then HIV came up there. After a year, the asylee or the refugee can apply for permanent residence. And here they always kept the humanitarian waiver. You didn't have to have a key relative. So this category was left as it was under Reagan's executive order, where there was a humanitarian waiver, but that humanitarian waiver didn't apply anywhere else. And again, HIV is not an issue now here unless it's used selectively by the individual as a positive reason for gaining protection. It doesn't have to be revealed as a result of the law. Investment is that $1 million business. create 10 American jobs and you can become a resident. Cancellation of removal, this is worth mentioning just a little bit. I still get questions almost every year from someone who says, isn't it true if I'm just here in the United States 7 years, I'll get a green card? Well, it's not. It used to be that if you were here 7 years and you would suffer extreme hardship, you could apply to block a deportation and get a green card by that. What they did was they changed that again at a time it appeared to be an anti-gay animus. They changed it to say not 7 years, but 10. You always had to have good moral character. But there had to be not just extreme hardship, but extreme and extraordinarily unusual hardship, but only to a U.S. citizen, parent, spouse, or lawful permanent resident, parent, spouse, or child. So what they did was they kept the category, renamed it, and narrowed it. So you don't get anything automatically. It's not 7 years, it's 10, and you have to have an anchor relative who would suffer extreme and extraordinary or unusual hardship. So it's not used as much. It's still there. It can be usable sometimes. The HIV hardship issue could come up here as a positive thing. If a person had a key relative and the relative was sick as a result of HIV, or they were sick and they weren't going to get that treatment that they needed back home, it might again be something someone would want, with advice of counsel, to use here as a positive thing for their own protection.